So of the 450,000 people that were affected by Katrina, no two stories are the same.
Welcome back to Austin Public Library. I'm sitting here with our special guest today, Daniel Lonzo.
Hello.
So, one of the things that makes Daniel special, especially in the library's eyes, is that Daniel is what we call a social media ambassador of the library. The Social Media Ambassadors Program is an online group of library supporters who help us raise awareness of APL in the community. Shares, retweets, favorites, hearts, likes, reactions. These are the ways that we ask our ambassadors to show their support for the library. Now, Daniel, I want you to know that even though the goal of our Social Media Ambassadors Program is to raise awareness of the library, it's also a goal to raise the library's awareness of supporters just like you. So let's start as far back in the beginning as you are willing to take us. Where are you from?
I'm originally from New Orleans, and I came to Austin as a result of Katrina. And I had family here, so I just sort of fell in love with it and decided to make this an investment and bought a place here, and I've been here ever since.
Coming from New Orleans and ending up in Austin, how would you compare sort of your experience in New Orleans to your experience in Austin? Like, Austin, I guess, is kind of going through better times. New Orleans has been recovering from Hurricane Katrina. So how would you compare the two cities?
I think ending up in Austin was not an accident. There are a lot of similarities. One, with the music, even though I will give credit, Austin is the live music capital of the world. There is live music everywhere. The bars don't stay open as late because New Orleans, but I did like the idea of no smoking in the bars. It was a clean city. Everybody was really friendly, and they're still friendly. And they're all interested in what I have to say, so that's what I like. And so it has that sort of, in New Orleans, we call it the stoops, where people sit outside, everybody speaks to everybody in most places. So I find that here in Austin. Yeah.
And in the emails that you and I exchanged just to kind of get ready for this meeting, you talked about how in New Orleans you were involved in getting people to use what the New Orleans Library had to offer. What kind of things did you do for the New Orleans Public Library?
Well, basically they would have this contest every year of writing children's stories. So I started by doing that, and then I just got into a situation where I was watching every penny that I had, so I realized that the library would help me save money because I collect DVDs. So as opposed to buying them, because I never did rent anything, but coming to the library I could access that, and I also love to read, so books and all is my thing. So now being here, I don't have the library that I used to have, so coming to Austin I can now do some of the same things that I did in New Orleans as far as keeping up with my reading, watching my movies, stuff like that.
So before you left New Orleans, you lived there, and could you just sort of take us back to Hurricane Katrina, because this past fall of 2015, it was the 10th anniversary that Hurricane Katrina made landfall and created all that devastation that I think the nation is well aware of and will remember forever. Could you just take us back? What was your experience of that?
Well, I actually stayed for the entire thing, but I had a 2-story home, so I was able to stay upstairs and not have to leave my home. But I did have provisions and everything, which, because my family is originally from New Orleans, growing up there, you know what you need to do, even though there hadn't been any hurricanes since Betsy, which was in 1965. So I was 4 years old then, but I remembered, what had happened, and just every year it's just something that you do. You start to stock up on water, canned goods, everything that you need just in case, because nobody knew when. And so Katrina happened to be that when, and I just happened to have everything that I needed. But I also look at, they always tell you to have like 3 days of food and water. You just never know, so it's best to have at least a week's worth of food, because we ran out of food that Thursday, and so it was like we had to get out, but I didn't want to go to the Superdome or be stuck anywhere. So luckily I just stayed home until somebody came with a boat that I didn't have to get in the water, and then they took us to where we could be transported, and just so happened it brought me to Texas.
From what I remember, the residents of New Orleans, they did receive some sort of warning from the government about that the hurricane was coming. How, in the days leading up to it, what was the vibe in the city like? Was the experience just that it was another routine emergency notice, or was the sense that there was something really big and awful coming?
Well, I think it was one of those situations where everybody had to go with their gut. And prior to Katrina, I hadn't been watching television, so I really didn't know what was going on. And in so many past experiences, people had packed up, left, nothing ever happened. There was an incident where they tried to go to another state, and the state wouldn't allow them to pass through. You don't want to be stuck on the road when something is happening, and people were spending hours not going anywhere. And so I just, from my experience, just had never left my home at all, and said if something was going to happen, I'd rather die in my home than on the street or somewhere else. And of course, you can't predict when anything is going to happen, but like I said, I would just rather die at home as opposed to somewhere else. So that was my mindset for that.
So it sounds like from a city that was sort of wreaked by destruction, you kind of came to a city that was now building itself up. So it sounds like you had an opportunity now to sort of reroute your life, and so you stayed here, and so now you're an Austinite. So how does, in the time that you've been in Austin, how does the Austin Public Library, how has it fit into your life?
Well, basically, it's given me the opportunity to read. I lost a lot of books during Katrina, so I was able to just touch base with that and get some normalcy back into my life, the things that I was used to, until I got back on my feet.
What is it about the Austin Public Library that motivated you to support us as a social media ambassador?
I just feel the need for people to read and educate themselves. I mean, it's not so much about getting a degree or anything. I mean, you can educate yourself in many ways. So one is picking up a book. If you don't understand something, if you hear something that somebody's saying, there's always a book that can help you learn what it is. And now, of course, with the internet the way it is, and you can now access the library's catalog via the internet as well. So there's really no excuse for people not to do whatever is necessary to learn and educate themselves.
When you talk about a library being a resource to learn or a place to learn, that I think resonates with me, and I think it resonates with a lot of people, because there is this idea out there about libraries, especially public libraries, that they are what you can think of as a quote-unquote people's university. There's a concept that the library is a people's university in the sense that it's open to everyone. It has all these diverse resources. It serves a diverse set of customers who have all sorts of needs. But people can freely come to the library and freely check things out just to enrich their lives. So I really appreciate how you characterize the library as an educational tool. So, okay, the last question is just a fill in the blank. So I'll give you the line and you just fill in the blank. And the line is, my library is?
My library is great and filled with information.
Social media ambassador Daniel Alonso, thank you very much. If you listening to this podcast right now are interested in supporting the Austin Public Library as a social media ambassador, please sign up on the library's website at library.austintexas.gov/ambassador.